Welcome back to the Mackem in the Middle podcast after another Sunderland game and a game that was on TV and a not particularly pleasing one to watch, I think is fair to say. Finished 0-0 away to Plymouth. A 6-pointer, really, with both teams looking to finish in the playoffs. It did finish 0-0. A point doesn't really help either team, but we'll talk about the fixtures that each team have remaining, what it means for Sunderland, and of course, a little bit about the game as well, from what we can. You were there, John. It wasn't the best game you've been to, I'd imagine.
No, it wasn't. It was a shame. It was, the football probably spoiled a good day out. The weather was nice, the pitch was nice. Their stadium's all right now. It's finished, to be fair, and everything was sort of set for a nice old day at the football and a last minute winner, which never really materialised. A winner of any sort of all game. It was a very, very drab game. Not obviously, we all saw it, and it wasn't the spectacle we maybe thought two good attacking teams at the top of the league would give us. And obviously the result, it didn't help anyone, but the result sort of embodied the performance almost.
Yeah. And obviously both teams got a point, Adam. Going into the game, both teams will have wanted all three, obviously. But taking into account as well that Wycombe dropped points, Sunderland now 10 games unbeaten. It isn't a bad result that a lot of people probably wouldn't let you believe that.
No, definitely. I think it was a good point, to be fair. If you asked me on Friday how many points would you want from Shrewsbury and Plymouth, I'd have took 4. If you said to me, we've got to go away to Oxford and we've got to go away to Plymouth, would you take 4 points? I'd have said 100%. I feel as if there's a lot of negativity and I don't understand it. I mean, like you say, I think had Wycombe won, you probably look at that and you think, maybe we could have done with all 3. But I think wanting all 3 at this point in the season, it's more of a case of being a bit greedy, I think. As I touched on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, us and Wycombe started the day on the same amount of points. We played the 4th best team in the league. They played the 3rd worst. We ended the day on the same points. Now, next week, we have Cambridge at home, who obviously I know is in good form. But that's when we'll capitalise on it. And I just think the main target of yesterday was to not let Plymouth get out of our reach.
Yeah. And I think the best way to put that, John, is yesterday wasn't a must-win. It was a must-not-lose, as some people said.
If we don't go up, it's not because we didn't beat Plymouth. It's because we failed to capitalise on getting that point at Plymouth.
Yeah. And I think as well, obviously with Wycombe dropping points, Rotherham dropping points recently, I think Wigan, they drew their last game as well. And I think MK Dons got beat as well. It just makes it a little bit more annoying, John, that we let Mike Dodds take charge of the first team for what I think was 3, maybe 4 games. Because if you look at the games that we lost in that period, you've got Doncaster at home, who hadn't won in God knows how many games. I think Wimbledon away was Wimbledon away one?
That was Alex Mills. It was Doncaster at home.
Cheltenham was one, I feel like.
Yeah, it was them. He only managed 2 games, Dodds.
Was it 2, was it?
Yeah, Doncaster at home, Cheltenham away. Because Johnson got sacked after Bolton and then Neil came in for Wigan.
But you look at them results especially, John, and with teams dropping points as everyone knew they would, it does make it a little bit more frustrating that we weren't more organised when we sacked Lee Johnson, to have someone come in straight away and start working with the team immediately.
Yeah, massively. If you look at what Neil's done now, if you'd have given them 3 games, he maybe could have shored it up, a lot quicker. I think it was a bit of arrogance maybe from the, from Speakman and the hierarchy with, we've got Defoe now and, we'll go and smash Doncaster at home and it'll be a big crowd and blah, 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 blah. And, it just didn't happen. And we're saying that the point on Saturday, although it was frustrating, it's in terms of our season, that's not the bad result, is going away and getting a point at a team who are are above you and who are, apparently at home they've won the last 6 and haven't conceded. So, they're absolutely on fire. Those types of results, even though we should be wanting to go there and win, and Alex Neil said that, we came here to win. It's the stupid results that ultimately in this league have let us down. We can't see games out, and the other team have got 10 men. With under Alex Neil, we probably do. We're really hard to beat.
There seems to have been more of them results this season than any other season as well. Just results that you shouldn't, be dropping points in. Shrewsbury away, 10 men. Accrington away, 10 men. Doncaster at home, Lincoln at home. There's so many games this season that you have to be winning. That when you do go and get a point away to Plymouth, it makes that look like a bad result when in reality it's not.
Yeah, exactly. That comes from the Johnson teams, and it probably sums up amazingly with the 3-0 when we drew with Bristol City, and they were 3-0 up, and that team did not have any fight, the Sunderland side at all, and Johnson's team were cruising. We managed to get it back to 3-0, and you don't see games out like that. You're never going to progress, and that's ultimately obviously what happened. Whereas now we're probably just short of. If we had got Neil in straight away, I think we'd probably be knocking on the doors now. We're in a really good position for the automatics, and then you'd take a 0-0 at Plymouth. You take that. It's not what we came for, but you take it because it's how the game's gone, and it's the result. But it's if we're looking at it maybe slightly a different way. I don't think we were very good and on fire, because I think if we are, I do actually think we we probably win 2 or 3-0 there, and Stewart sort of bang on it and not sort of absolutely shattered, and we managed to keep Pritchard fit and those types of things, and Jack Clark doesn't have an absolute off day, which is what we saw. Those are the differences in this team and in this league that will just win us games out of absolutely nothing. That's what we've done recently with the Broadhead goal and the Embleton goal. We've just found a way. But at the moment, we just seem to be coming up a tiny bit short. But on the other hand, you've got to look at it and say it's a good point on the road. We've stopped them gaining points. We've obviously got a point. We've got a game in hand which we've got to make sure we do something with. We've obviously got to be not too confident about playing Cambridge at the weekend, because they're a team who could just come up and just do the dirty on teams, which is what they've done. So we need to make sure we're focused on that. But I think we will be. And as it stands, very luckily, we're still in a very good position.
Yeah, and on the game, Adam, there's not really too much to talk about. We'll try and talk about as much as we can, but it really was a game that was played in midfield mainly, and it was obviously Matete for Sunderland and Evans, who I'll give credit for, against Kamara of Plymouth, and I think he was one of the players that back in January, when we were looking at players that Sunderland could look at signing, I think it might have been you, to be honest. I'm not sure if it was, but someone definitely mentioned him as an option in midfield.
It was me. It was definitely
it you?
I saw him play us against the Stadium of Light, and he was just a unit, and he zipped the ball around, and he was probably exactly what we were looking for. Yeah,
but that is literally how the game was, wasn't it, Adam? Just played in midfield, and it was very even.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a common theme since we've dropped down to League One, to be fair. When we come up against those big athletic midfielders, even against Shrewsbury, I thought the best player on the pitch and one of the best players that we came up against this season was Tyrese Forner. Shrewsbury, their number 8, unknown from Nottingham Forest. In the game, we had to deal with it on Monday against Plymouth and Kamara, because obviously I'm not going to get Evans, but you can't get around the pitch as much. So before January, when we were without Matete, I think Kamara would have overrun us even more. But no, Matete was fantastic, and to be able to make about 5 or 6 fouls and not get booked.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, I think in the first 5 minutes he made a couple, and he should have been on a yellow card, and then he probably would have had to stay off Kamara a little bit.
I think there was one tackle, especially on Kamara, right on halfway, that even if it wasn't his 6th foul of the game, even if that was his first, that's probably a yellow card in itself, to be honest. But I think he got away with that one.
100%. I think Petty dealt with him really well. He stopped him playing, and he ended up making him go off injured, which obviously isn't great to see a player get injured. But if you're a Sunderland fan, you don't mind seeing the back of Kamara there.
Yeah, and especially if he's out for well, for the rest of the season, I say there's only two. I think Plymouth might have 2 games left now. I think we've got 3. I think Plymouth have 2. So if he's out for Plymouth as well, that's a big blow for them. But another thing that happened in the game, John, because like I said, there really wasn't much that happened, was a kind of wrestling match, I suppose, in the penalty box on Stewart. Ended up getting given as a Plymouth free kick when I think it was their defender, I'm not sure who it was, had their arms around Stewart, not looking at the ball, took him to the floor, and Stewart was penalised for it. And it's a penalty, I would say.
Yeah, obviously I was at the the away end up the other end. So when the free kick's given, it was one of those standard. Oh, right, okay. Just a stupid, free kick in the box to them. What a waste of a set piece for us. And then but obviously looking back, it's gone the other way. But I mean, we've got to get used to. Well, I suppose we are used to it. The terrible standard of refereeing. There was plenty of decisions yesterday that were questionable. But again, that's just something we've got to live with. And very rarely do you get a penalty for any sort of wrestling in the box. You could see it as soon as Stewart had was in the box for any corner free kick. It was being wrestled because I'm sure a couple of times he had to be called by the ref, both of them. So it was definitely happening, but I don't think you're going to see that strength in mentality to give. I don't think he's going to give. It sounds really stupid, but I don't think he's going to give a penalty to Sunderland. At the Plymouth end for a sort of a tussle in the box. Those things are only given nowadays in sort of VAR reviews. So I think that's just one thing we've got to accept, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just on Stewart, obviously, Adam, I think the last time he scored was actually against Wigan. If I remember, a brace against Wigan in a pretty good win. But that was the last time he scored. He's played
as well.
Yeah, he's played pretty much every minute of every game this season. I think he might have been taken off once or twice for the last 10 minutes of a game. And, he is getting a little bit of criticism. I wouldn't say he's getting much because obviously a lot of people understand that, he's got 22 goals this season, I think it is. I think he's one behind Stockton, who is the league's top scorer. But, for a player, when you watch him, he does absolutely everything. He holds it up. He'll go and challenge the keeper one-on-ones. He'll run with it. He'll pick the ball up in our own half and, kind of get us going. It's not really a surprise to see him drop out of form a little bit when you think of how much work he's doing week in, week out.
No, that's it. I mean, it's not necessarily dropping out of form, he's just not scoring, is he? And I think what summed it up yesterday when Roberts came on and Plymouth's defenders obviously had the ball and were passing it about and stuff. The way our team was actually structured was Stewart was actually defending behind Broadhead and Roberts. And even a lot of times yesterday, he was taking up the role. Harry Kane's been criticised for kind of taking up because you'll see him and it's a bit frustrating because he's either on the edge of the box or he's taking the ball on the wings. And especially with Jack Clark, Ross Stewart must absolutely hate Jack Clark because he's making the same runs he has all season, but the ball's not coming in. And then by the time Stewart's already made his run and sees in the offside position, then Clark will put the ball in. And it's just, you've got a lad there. He's about, 6'3", you'd say? Good in the air. The amount of goals he scored early on in the season, obviously under Lee Johnson, from crosses, and we're just not utilising them at all. But there's one thing I'd say about Stewart. I think he's good at everything, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that attitude to say, "Today I'm going to score a goal," kind of thing. I feel as if he's happy to not score a goal. He's happy to do all the dirty work and to be an integral part of the team. But I'd always want my number 9 to have that attitude where it's like, I'm going to make myself score today. If I'm not getting the delivery, then I'm going to go and get the ball and I'm going to score myself. And I don't think he has that want to score the goal like the best strikers in the world do, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. But I think as well with Pritchard missing, we don't have anyone that will drop deep and pick the ball up and play it to Stewart. Embleton sometimes does it, but not particularly often. So if Stewart wants to get in the game, especially like I say when Pritchard's out of the team, he has to get himself into the game. He has to come and get the ball off Corey Evans or whoever's playing at the back and kind of get us going from there. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you have a stat somewhere of it, but I'd imagine he does the most running in every single game that we play.
Well, he's on fire. When we played Gillingham, our possession was about 80% or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Their striker had more touches than Ross Stewart.
Yeah.
The Dylan Oliver. He had more touches than Ross Stewart. And we had 80% of the ball. That tells you everything. I think, like you say about Pritchard being the one to do all the running, being the one to get the ball in the half spaces and to make something happen. I think if Alex Neil wants to bring Ross Stewart into the game a bit more, then I think he's got to make a tactical change, and I think he's got to put maybe Embleton behind the striker or Roberts centrally.
Yeah. Or Daniel.
Yeah, to be fair, Daniel, but again, I don't think Daniel's got that class about him. Like, he's got the class about him, but I mean, like, whereas Roberts and Pritchard can wiggle the way through little small gaps, like pick out, pass out.
Yeah.
I think Daniel's better suited about 30 yards further back.
Yeah. But with Stewart not scoring, John, obviously Nathan Broadhead has been, and I think before yesterday, I think it was 8 goals in 8 games. I think he's got like a goal every, I think it was 116 minutes since he signed for Sunderland, which is, I think it's still the best goal to game ratio in the league. I think Akinfenwa actually has the second best. But he probably had the best chances of the game, I would say, John.
Yeah, probably the clearest ones. He's a bit of a weird one, obviously, especially yesterday. He's sort of in and out of games. For us to sort of put our stamp on the game, I think he needs to be a lot more involved. And I'm not quite sure. We've sort of found his bit, well, especially yesterday anyway. He sort of found his best position. Like you say, we had Stewart sort of dropping deep and that not really working. Embleton was sort of floating all over, and then you've got obviously Broadhead sort of higher up, and it was a little bit mishmashy. And obviously, we saw the the whole 90 minutes, and nothing really came off. Obviously you guys were talking about Stewart a minute ago. It's probably maybe about time we took Stewart out of the firing line, maybe, and played Broadhead, maybe the highest player up, and then we need to surround him with players like Embleton and Patrick Roberts, and maybe get because they're the ones who will find all three of them sort of interchangeable, and there'd be a nightmare to mark. You wouldn't know where to go, sort of where the passes would be threaded to. And then sort of 50, 60 minutes, then you could say, well, Broadhead, you've either done your job or you haven't. Then you bring on sort of a half fresh, Ross Stewart, who sort of, even though he's been flogged to death, he's still trying to do he's still trying to run everywhere. And yesterday he did really look leggy, especially second half. Like his pressing wasn't great, and that's to be expected. He's probably used this season to having international breaks where he can go off for sort of 10 days and have a bit of a chill at the academy, like a few days training. Obviously this time he's had to he's gone with the Scotland squad. He's probably trained every day, and he hasn't really, even though he didn't play, which was sort of a bit of a waste of time. Didn't really get a break, and now he almost looks like he's sort of flogged to death. And obviously we know the Defoe situation, so it's left us a little bit light up top. But I think it needs to maybe be sort of a one-on-one situation, as opposed to trying to shoehorn them both in, and obviously bringing Pritchard back, hopefully. But yeah, yesterday sort of Broadhead, even though he wasn't his best game, he still has that quality, like we know he has, to get chances when it just obviously wasn't meant to be yesterday.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, nothing else really happened in the game. It was, like I said earlier, just kind of a battle in midfield. Neither side had any real clear-cut chances. I don't think everything was kind of a half chance, maybe a little bit more. I think they had one header that went, a couple of inches wide of the post, and that was it really for them. And like I said, Broadhead had a couple of half chances for Sunderland that never really came to anything, but it finished 0-0. And it's a point that keeps Sunderland in the playoffs for now. I think Sheffield Wednesday play tonight, so it could change. But, just looking at the table, Adam, you've got Plymouth on 79 points in fourth. You then got Wycombe, Sunderland on 77, Sheffield Wednesday on 76, and Oxford, who I think might be out of it now, although it's going to be tight on 72. So realistically, I think it's out of Wycombe, Sunderland, and Sheffield for them places in the playoffs. It's tight, isn't it?
That's one way to describe it. See, because I made a little thing yesterday where it was like how many. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday and Wickham are playing each other next week, so I made a thing about like, oh, how many points can Wickham finish on if they would win? How many points can Sheffield Wednesday finish on if it's a draw? And during all that, I forgot about Plymouth, and I genuinely feel like it could be Plymouth that misses out. And I'm sure every Sunderland fan has done it this week. Just looked at the fixture list about 20 times, and I think out of all the teams, you probably want our fixtures.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, Sheffield Wednesday's still got Wickham and Portsmouth. We've only really got Rotherham. Wickham's got Sheffield Wednesday. Plymouth's just got Wigan and MK Dons. Now, we're probably tomorrow. What we want on Saturday, sorry, what we want to happen is for Sheffield Wednesday to put about 10 past Wickham. I think the ideal scenario that would be it, and then we know that we only need to get 3 points.
Yeah. Ideally, a Crew win tonight as well would go down well.
Well, yeah, but that's never.
No one's done us any favours this far, have they?
Not when it mattered, I suppose, but they have done when we've also dropped points. But realistically, with the 3 games you have left, 7 points, I think. I mean, I could be totally wrong here, but I think 7 points guarantees playoffs, I think.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah.
And realistically, 6 points is probably going to be enough to get you in there as well, John. But, you look at the fixtures, like we've just said, we've got Cambridge, we've got Morecambe, and you look at them and think you'd rather play them than, a Wigan or whoever. But they're 2 teams that have absolutely nothing to play for. They've got nothing to worry about. They can go and play however they want. It doesn't matter if they get hammered. It doesn't matter if they're whatever happens. And that is sometimes the most dangerous type of opposition to play, especially at this point in the season.
Yeah, it is. Obviously with Cambridge coming up, they're just going to be a very stubborn team, and be the team that sort of gets one shot on target sort of all game. And it's going to be down to us to can we unlock it? It's going to be sort of a Gillingham game, with 80% possession and those types of games. Obviously, if they came up and went toe to toe with us, I think they'd have more than enough in the bank to sort of put them away, sort of 2-3-0. Maybe took our foot off the gas a little bit against Shrewsbury, obviously on Friday. But then you're looking at the Morecambe game again. How are they? What are they going to be fighting for? By the looks of it, we're looking at a table. I think they're, even though it's tight, I think they're still pretty safe. But knowing Sunderland, it'll be, we'll probably, draw against Cambridge and then sort of go out and put Rotherham to the sword. That's the sort of, team we are.
Yeah.
But I think if you're looking, I think if you're pragmatic about it, I think you're going to be asking for 7 points. I think, like I say, it's the Sunderland way in it. If you beat Cambridge and you beat Morecambe, you'll happily take a draw against Rotherham. But it's when you draw, say we draw on the weekend and then we go to Rotherham and draw, it's a bit like, oh, well, this would have been a good point if we'd have, it's always the way. So you've then got to go and make sure you beat sort of Cambridge the weekend. That then sets the tone for Tuesday, and then it's, we probably would take a point because you then still expect to, the following week to go to Morecambe and, last game of the season and do the business there. So it
would be the most Sunderland thing ever to leave it to the last game of the season, and probably the last minute as well of the Morecambe game.
Yeah, exactly. But at least, I think this season is probably a little bit different. With Alex Neil, I think, with how Ross was and, Grayson and Johnson, obviously, Parkinson, sorry, not Grayson. God, we've had too many shit managers. But yeah, this is the only one time I really feel like we can do, a game by game. And I don't think there is that, every time he gets interviewed, it's just about today. It's just about today. That's all it is. It's not, well, we don't need to worry about, Southend last game because we'll easily beat them. We all know what obviously happened there. But it does strike me now that we're much more sort of switched on to the situation and a lot more focused under Alex Neil. And if we're, I know we're in and around it, but let's be honest, we still should be, the playoffs should be I wouldn't say a given, but we should be definitely, aiming. That should be the minimum is to get into the playoffs. That has to be the focus. And hopefully, we do get over. In fairness, we should get in there. We've probably got the most favourable, run. But again, like we said, Sunderland don't do things. You've always got that to fall back on. That Sunderland could do with Sunderland, and spectacularly explode. But I don't think that's going to happen. But it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah. And I suppose the one difference between this season, obviously we'll get into player ratings in a second as well, but the one difference between this season and, well, really the only season you can compare it to is the season under Jack Ross when we were in the playoffs, Adam, is if Sunderland make it into the playoffs, which, I'd honestly be surprised if we didn't, and I'd be very disappointed if we didn't. But if we do, we're going into it with probably more confidence than we did in that first season. We're keeping clean sheets. Teams aren't really creating chances against us. And we're winning games. It's now 10 games unbeaten, like I said right at the start. We're a very hard team to beat. And especially at home, you'd expect them to do the business.
No, definitely. I think I'd rather be the team that have to fight for the playoffs, because for me, I feel like the last couple of years when we've obviously been in the playoffs and lost, we've kind of took the playoffs for granted because we've been chasing automatic promotion all season. We failed automatic promotion. And I feel as if, without anything really being said, could the players in the dressing room be thinking, oh, we're in the playoffs now, kind of this is below us. We haven't had to work hard for this. We're better than every other team. Whereas this season, they've had to be switched on the whole time. And we're going to have to get into the playoffs by probably getting about 27 points from our last 11, 12 games. Whereas last year, I don't know if you know, but Sunderland actually broke the record for a League One side being in the playoffs on the worst form in the last 10 games.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind, like I say, this year we're going to have to be hitting form that would have got you about 105, 110 points over a season just to get in the playoffs in our last 10, 12 games. I think it will only do us the world of good. And not just that, obviously the teams that we've played under Neil, we beat Wigan, we got a good run at Oxford, we got a good draw against Plymouth. We'll have to probably beat Rotherham, or at least get a good result against Rotherham if we want to get in the playoffs. So we're going into the playoffs knowing that we can beat teams that are going to be in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully goal difference doesn't come into it, because otherwise some of the results under Lee Johnson will certainly be scrutinised even more. But anyway, player ratings.
0-5-0.
Yeah, I think I was at most of the games where we've been absolutely hammered. So lucky me. But anyway, John, Anthony Patterson had literally very little to do in the game. One thing that I do like about Patterson is he will come and collect crosses, and he does it very well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I'll probably go over a 6 for Patterson. I thought it was solid what he had to do. We've had keepers before where they've been really nervy coming for crosses, Hoffman and that type of thing. But it wasn't really tested. But everything he did with perfection to me. So yeah, it's a shame that he's as low as a 6 because he didn't really have anything to do.
Yeah, and again, Adam, just bog standard 6, didn't really get tested.
Yeah, I mean, I feel as if in games like that against the tough opposition, you want to feel safe, and I think I did feel safe with Patterson in goals. So to be fair, just for keeping my heart rates down, I'd probably put it up to a 7.
Yep, that's fair enough. Carl Winchester back as part of the back. I wouldn't say back 3, but I don't really know what it was. But he played at the back, I suppose. Just kind of go with a 6 out of 10. John didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, same 6. Sort of
might be a common number today.
Yeah, sort of a hard working performance, doing a favour for the team almost. Didn't really, sort of the forward balls didn't really come off, which a bit frustrating. But yeah, we'll go with 6.
Yeah, and Adam?
Just because in those games you don't want anyone to mess up, I'd probably just go 7s across the board.
Fair enough. Bailey Wright, I would probably go with a 7 for Bailey Wright, John. I think, especially, he's just very good at defending, really. And I think that's one thing that we haven't had for a long time. Obviously, when he was first in the team, he was a very good defender. He looked a level above everyone else at this level. He got injured or got dropped or whatever it was. He came back, didn't look the same. But this season, I think he's been one of our most consistent players. And I think he was again against Plymouth. So I'd probably say a 7.
Do you know what? I'll probably go up to an 8. I thought it was really, really good. Really commanding at the back, and literally just played like a sweeper. Always wanted the ball, which some of our players didn't. And he made it really easy to be an option. And every single attack he seemed to deal with really well, and seems to have gained a yard of pace as well. I noticed yesterday he was sort of quick on the turn and covering. So yeah, I was really impressed with him yesterday. I'll give him an 8.
Yeah. And Adam?
7 again. just solid. That's all you want. You just beg that no one's going to make a silly mistake, really, don't you, in those games?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to necessarily guess what Adam's going to go for Dennis Serkin. I'm going to assume a 7, but I'm going to go with a 6 for Serkin, John. Again, just steady.
Yeah, same. I'll go a 6. I thought he defended well. But again, going forward, maybe it's other people haven't really helped him out, but going forward, he's a bit sort of hesitant in laying the balls off when he got into some really good positions. So yeah, we'll go over 6.
Yeah, Adam.
No, do you know what it is? I'll give him a 7.5. I actually thought he was one of our better players.
Fair enough.
I like the way how, obviously, playing with a fullback in a back three, just the way he drives forward with the ball. I like, and I think he's better playing a bit more narrower when he's driving with the ball in, like, maybe not on the byline, but no, definitely I think this position suits him.
I think it suits Sunderland a lot more as well when you think of the games that literally dominate possession. You don't need players to sit back like that. And I think when Certain gets the ball, or Winchester on the other side, they will get forward. And you're essentially playing with one defender, which hasn't really phased Sunderland for weeks now.
I'd love to have seen Winchester's heat map against Shrewsbury, because honestly, at times that he was playing by win.
Yeah.
Anything with Serkin yesterday was it probably wasn't his fault. That every time he did get into sort of a decent position, obviously Stewart was already going into the box, and Jack Clark just wasn't offering. A couple of times Serkin played the ball into the area, and just sort of no one was there. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh with a couple of the others not sort of getting and showing into the areas, because obviously then that would have bumped him up. But it's not, like I'm saying, it's not a criticism of Serkin anyway, because he is a good player, and he's going to be a very good player, I think.
Yeah. Luke O'Nien playing as a wing back realistically. I think he was on the left, and I think he switched to the right in the second half, really. I don't think he really got into the game, didn't offer any width, really. I think you put one good ball in the box that Stewart didn't quite get on the end of, but other than that, was fairly quiet in the game. So I'd probably go with a 5 for O'Nien, John.
I'll probably go over 6. I think he still did. He did graft quite a lot and sort of get up and down the pitch. Like I said, not a lot sort of came off or went through him. But then I don't think that's really his game out on sort of a winger, wasn't he? Sort of either side of both halves. So yeah, I'll probably go over 6, because he did. To be fair, he did work hard.
Yeah, I'll go with the same, just a 6.
Just a 6 for him, eh?
Standard Luke O'Nien performance.
In the midfield, Corey Evans we'll start with, and I still think the same about Corey Evans. I think he plays a role that a lot of games that doesn't really suit Sunderland in a lot of games, and I think if you look at the Shrewsbury game, had he started that game, we don't go 2-0 up. But I think the game against Plymouth was a game that he had to start, because it is very much, like I said, a midfield battle, a game that you need to get control of. And it would have been harder to get control of had he not been playing. So I'd probably go with a 7 for Evans, John.
Yeah, same. We're going for 7. I thought he was decent, to be fair. He was zipping the ball about, and obviously we were quite close to the pitch. So in fairness, we did see him bollocking off a few players and getting in the ref's ear as well. Which recent weeks he's maybe been questioned. Is he the right player to captain us? So to be fair, we're happy to give him stick when he rightly so does deserve it. But then, on the other hand, I think, the last couple of games he's been really good in the middle, really, really solid.
Yeah. Adam?
No, same again, 7. I just think it's funny the reaction of some Sunderland fans, as if to say like, "I told you so" about Corey Evans because he had an okay game yesterday. And what I'd say back to them is just because a football team and Sunderland our football team need a defensive midfielder in their side doesn't mean Corey Evans is good. We do need him because he covers an area of the pitch, but doesn't mean that he's a good player. So I think he played all right yesterday, but whether we go up or stay in this division, that's the first position I'll be looking at getting someone better in at.
Yeah. Jamie Tete, again, I'd probably go 6 or a 7. I don't really know. Him and Kamara, obviously the two kind of battling the most in midfield, and they were probably the two main players in the game, really, in terms of how much they were involved. One thing I've definitely noticed about Matete is he is quite careless when he's on the ball, and sometimes doesn't look where he's passing it. Gives the ball away, and like Adam said earlier, was miraculously lucky not to get a yellow card in that game. And I think he has been a few games really, where he's made 4 or 5 tackles or fouls, I should say, and got away with it. But all the best, I suppose. So I'd probably go with 6.5. I'm going to say, John, because I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll probably go over 6. Like you said, a couple of times, I think he did lose the ball when sort of the easy passes on. Sometimes he leaves the ball sort of there to be won, and you sort of your heart's in your mouth a little bit. Maybe you need to tighten up on that. I'd like to see if Corey Evans is sitting, I'd like to see him get forward a hell of a lot more because Corey Evans isn't going to get forward. If for me, I'd like to see maybe Jamie Matete playing Corey Evans' position, sort of back there, win the ball and sort of zip it round because he is very good at that. And sort of have our more sort of technical players just in front of him. But yesterday, sort of, it was a little bit hit and miss. So I'll go over 6.
Yeah, Adam.
I'd give him probably just our man of the match yesterday. The friendship dealt with Kamara perfectly well, and I think the brilliance of his game is some people probably have a go at him and say he holds onto the ball for too long and he doesn't play quick, but I think that's the brilliance of him. I think that's probably why we signed him, because he can take the sting out of the game with holding on to the ball, whereas at the same time, by holding on to the ball, he can take you about 20 yards up the pitch.
Yeah.
I think he's superb, and I love a midfielder that can take the ball under pressure and beat the press, and he's one of the best I've seen in Sunderland in recent years of being able to do that. So no, I think definitely 7.5 going on to an 8 for Jim Teddy yesterday.
Yeah. Jack Clark did absolutely nothing in the game apart from miscontrol the ball, I think. A few times got a simple pass, took a heavy touch or let everyone underneath him, and just offered absolutely nothing in the game. I think he started on the right as well, which is what a lot of fans have been complaining about a little bit recently with, Roberts playing on the right, Clark playing on the left, both of them having to cut inside. But he started on the right and was probably less effective on the right than he has been on the left in recent games. He swapped sides second half and was possibly a little bit better on the left side, but again, just didn't really offer anything. His service was poor, just very frustrated performance from him, I think, and I think you could tell that from his body language as well. So I'd probably go with it as low as a 4, maybe a 5 at a push, John.
Yeah, I'd go with a 4. I thought he was really, really poor for someone who's, I know we don't always like to talk about how much players are worth, but the kid's gone for 10 million, and you'd expect him to be able to trap a ball. The only thing I might give him, which is not really an excuse, is his confidence looked absolutely shot, especially in the second half. There was a lot of fans, around me, sort of giving him a lot of stick. Not they probably would have heard it or anything, but yeah, yesterday just like nothing came off, and in the end didn't. Serkin's absolutely bombing down the wing, and Jack Clark sits there, and Serkin's got nowhere to go. Like almost hung Serkin out to dry a little bit. And you've got to expect more for a player on loan from Tottenham. Who you've got to expect a hell of a lot more. So yeah, I'll go over 4.
Yeah, Adam.
Surprisingly, I actually disagree with you, Josh, about position, I thought the first half he was one of our better players. I'd give him say a 7 or something. In the second half on the left, he was atrocious. And I think overall, obviously, it's a 90-minute game. And yeah, probably like a 4.5 or 5. I think the thing that summed him up perfectly was near the end when Roberts came on. I don't know if you remember, but he was on the left and Roberts made like a run.
Yeah.
Clark held on to it for that one touch longer and ended up kicking it out.
And then, yeah.
And that moment there, it opened up. That ball goes through to Roberts. Roberts can cut it across to someone.
So it was very similar to the situation they were in for Roberts' goal against Crewe, was it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's it. And see, the only thing that I'd defend with Jack Clark is, and I always go back to his time at Leeds when he burst onto the scene. He was playing in a very high line of a 4-3-3 where all of his work and all of his energy was conserved to get the ball, kick it past his man. Can you remember when Will Buckley joined? And
That's a name for ages.
A blind on his debut against Man United.
Yeah.
Same with when James McLean first joined us. Just a young player who'd kick it down the line and run after it. And I feel as if that's probably been out of his game because he doesn't do that at all now, especially now the formation play asking him to come back. I feel a bit sorry for him because he's putting in a good shift. He's doing all the defensive work, which you probably wouldn't have expected of him. But then on the other hand, he's probably just worn out and he doesn't have that bright spark left in his game when he gets the ball high up the pitch.
Yeah.
It's got to be a confidence thing because the amount of times he was, and you two might have seen it different. The amount of times he was one-on-one with his man, you thought you should absolutely take him to the cleaners. It was almost like, oh no, I'm not sure on that.
He seems very reluctant to do that, and I don't know if you watched the after show with Danny Collins as well. One thing that Jack Clark can do but doesn't do often enough is just knock the ball past a player and just kick the ball in the box. It doesn't have to be a good ball in the box, especially in League One. Just kick it in there. Anything can happen. Take a ricochet off a defender and go in, or the keeper could spill it, or Stewart or Broadhead could be on the end of it. But he just doesn't seem to take the risk of doing it, and he always wants to come back in on the right-hand side and just fizzles out. Yeah,
the ability's there. There's no excuse because sometimes at the Stadium of Light, he might just be a home player. I don't know, but he'll go around like 4 players, to try and cut inside and just add it to your game of going both ways. And with his ability, he'll be able to tear him to shreds. People don't go to Tottenham for £10 million if they haven't got any ability, and he should be tearing it up here. And I think it might just be a confidence thing at the moment, hopefully, and we see the best, the next sort of 3-4 games.
Yeah. And just when Adam mentioned Will Buckley there, I had to go and have a look to see where he's playing now. He actually retired when he was 31 at Bolton in 2020 was his last game, which is very interesting. Only 32 now.
Shout out to
30.
Conor McLaughlin, who retired today.
He did.
Good old Conor McLaughlin.
Miss him. Elliot Embleton had a half chance that he skied after cutting in on his left, and then another half chance when he curled it straight into the hands of the keeper. I think there was one very good ball through to Stewart. I think it was in the second half, potentially. Stewart just possibly a yard away from controlling the ball, really. But Embleton can do that. He's very similar to Pritchard in the way that he can make something happen out of nothing. It didn't happen against Plymouth, but I'd probably go with a 6, John.
Yeah, I'll probably just about go over 6. I'd like to have seen him sort of show more for the ball into feet, and it just, that just wasn't happening. That's normally a sort of our tactic of getting it into the final third is with Pritchard, drop it in there. And I know he's not Pritchard, we can't measure him against that. But, for someone who did actually get promoted out of this league last season and played a lot of games, I'd expect just a little bit more. And yesterday it just didn't really happen.
Yeah. Adam?
Yeah, just again, never really done anything. I feel as if our midfielders, well, particularly Embleton and Broadhead, because of how tight the game was, they kind of got away with being so sloppy. So many occasions, the game opened up where if they were just clever about it, done a quick 1-2, they could have completely opened Plymouth up, especially in the middle of the park. And it just wasn't happening for them. So again, I'd probably say a 6, just to be kind.
Just to be kind. Interesting.
We do
last two,
expect more though.
we do. Last two players, Broadhead. Like I said, he had the only real chances of the game. There weren't clear-cut chances. Could he do a little bit more with them potentially? But it's not one of them that you're going to look back on and think he should have scored it. So again, probably 6, John.
Yeah, 6 is probably maybe a tiny bit generous. I'd like to see him maybe drop inside a little bit more than Stewart does, because sort of he's one of those ones who can roll his man. You can tell he's obviously trained and played at a higher standard. He's able to roll his man and hold him off and on the turn, and those were the times we actually got in behind. So I'd like to see a lot more of that. But yesterday, yeah, could have done better with one or two. But again, he's another one that's sort of in and out of games. I'd like to see him a lot more involved. But maybe he's carrying a knock. I don't know, because he obviously has to pick and choose his moments.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, just
Gonna be kind.
I'm just going to be kind. Give him a 6.5.
Very nice. I'm sure we'll appreciate that. Last but not least, Ross Stewart, or should I say Rod Stewart at the moment. Just it looks off it a little bit. And again, a lot of that is down to the fact that we aren't really creating the chances that we've seen him score from recently. I think the only real chance he had in the game was kind of 20 yards out when he took the ball himself and had a shot on goal, went just wide. A heavy touch. It was quite a difficult touch to bring down from Edmonton's pass, so not too much blame on him for that. But for him to thrive, I think we need to be creating more chances. But at the same time, we do sometimes get the ball into a good area, and he's not there. Whether that is because he's having to kind of start the build-up or whatever it is, that is kind of the place you want him to be, and he will get lots more goals. And I'll be very frustrated if he doesn't finish the top scorer this season.
Have you got a bet on him?
What's that, sorry?
Have you got a bet on him?
I haven't, but I just want him to finish top scorer.
Listen to this. I put a 10 on at the start of the season for Mitrovic and Ross Stewart to win £500.
I think he's one behind, isn't he?
Yeah, and I can't see him doing it.
We had hat-trick against Mackem last game of the season. 3-2 win against Mackem. Two
That's
goals. Two goals for Stockton, 3 goals for Stewart. 97th minute winner. The seal us a 6th place finish.
I'll tell you what, that will be interesting though. I don't know how important the golden boot is to a striker, but if it does go down to the last game in the level,
you'll just see both strikers not passing to anyone, just running.
Yeah,
Ross Stewart's got 3 more games though.
He does.
Yeah, but Will Kane has 4 more, doesn't he?
He does. I think he's one behind, isn't he?
And then you've got Alfie May.
I don't even think Will Kane plays as a striker, does he?
He has been. But all season, because my mate's got the same bet on, we've been saying no chance a Mackem striker can win the golden boot.
He looks like he might, and I think he's a player that we could have potentially looked at signing in January. And
yeah, I've definitely got him in January, definitely.
Obviously, I don't know whether someone looked at it and decided not to pay the money that Mackem wanted, but I can't imagine they wanted that much. But who knows? But anyway, Ross Stewart, I'd probably just call it a 6, John.
Yeah, I'll go for 6. Obviously, we still get the standards. Works his arse off. Had the odd flashes at goal. Maybe should have had a penalty. But a lot of the time as well, if you watch him sort of off the ball, he does make good runs, and the balls sometimes just do not come. And then other times, they're over here, or the service isn't great to him. So we'll maybe let him off that. He does get knackered. So maybe if we are, touch wood, sort of 2 or 3-0 up on Saturday, maybe give him a rest, because we are going to need him for the next potential, sort of 6 game.
Yeah, you might be winning the 94th minute for that.
Yeah.
Ross Stewart, Adam.
6. Actually, no. To be fair, I thought, because like I say, he doesn't have that mindset of I really want to go, and I think that was Embleton played that ball over the top.
Yeah.
Considering he's in the Scotland lineup, and we're talking about him, as a good championship striker, you've got to get that touch spot on.
That is a difficult touch to take, though.
I know, but for me and you, maybe. But you know, he trains about 30 hours a week, probably. Surely, a professional footballer can just take a touch on the lunge.
It's the same with that Oxford one. When he went through, I didn't really feel confident he was going to score, and I think it was.
I think Ross Stewart's a player that if you give him time, he overthinks it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oxford.
As opposed to instinct.
Yeah, if you put a
when he
ball
went
in the
through
box and give Stewart a header, he'll score it.
Yeah, when he went through at Oxford, obviously we was there, and I was like, I don't think he's got too much time. It's too easy. Whereas the instinct one that's in the box doesn't even think about, the good movement, bang. That's normally where he gets his goals.
Early on in the season, though, you'd have just put that across goal and just slid it in.
Yeah, just sort of side-footed it, but it sort of took too long. And
kind of a similar goal that he scored against Plymouth last season, I think it was actually.
Yeah, he ran through, didn't he, and slotted it in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
White was injured, wasn't it?
When was the last time Sunderland's actually created a chance where a striker has actually been just running through one-on-one with him? In fact, football nowadays, you never see that, do you?
Nah, never.
It's always cutbacks.
Because they all play sweepers. All play sweepers, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But you're not going to be kind on this one?
No, not because he's lost me 500 quid, so I'm going to give him a 5.
No, he hasn't yet.
It's gone.
There's only one goal behind. Could still finish on 30, potentially.
Wait, if he can get another 2 off, if he can get 3 more, I think he'll win it.
Hopefully so. I think he will. I think he's got 3 more in him this season, but we'll see. Man of the match, John?
I'll probably have to go, obviously, my ratings. I'll probably have to go Bailey Wright, which is a bit of a sad indictment of the game. Well, for me, anyway.
And Adam?
Who's that, sorry?
Man of the match?
Oh, Chimate.
Fair enough.
It's a shame he didn't. It's a shame he didn't stay on. To be fair, because he like he was saying, he's one of the ones who can actually sort of carry the ball and sort of find those little pockets. Obviously, we scored from that last week with him sort of driving in. Yeah, we probably could have done that, which was a bit frustrating in and not staying on the pitch.
Yeah,
oh, definitely.
But we'll see. Saturday's game can't come quick enough. Obviously, I didn't actually realise how quick the turnaround is actually for the playoffs. I think it's a month and 2 days to the final. I think it is 21st of May. I think it is, isn't it?
21st
Yeah.
So it's a very quick turnaround. Hopefully we are there. But Saturday's game, on paper, an easy win, I would say, but it never works like that. So predictions for Saturday, John?
Personally, I'll just take a 2-0. I can't see it being very simple. I think that's too easy to just expect.
Both goals before the 90th minute, ideally.
Yeah, 91st and 95th minute. It'd be something stupid like that and put us through the ringer again, like against Shrewsbury, heart attack style. But we'll take it. No one's talking about performances now. We just want the points on the board.
We do. Adam?
No, I'm 100% in agreement with John. Even though we've been winning, I just want that confidence back that we can score a normal goal at a normal time.
I mean, it's the best way to win a game, but it's the hardest game to watch a game when it's so tight, especially with how many points are in it for the playoffs. If we keep leaving it late, I think it's like 8 games in a row, something we've scored in the 90th, like 85th plus minute, isn't it?
82nd, I think someone tweeted that.
Yeah, so definitely one to wait till the end for on Saturday, I'd imagine. Hopefully not, but I imagine it will work like that. But 3 games left, plenty of points to play for, obviously 9. Rotherham game on Tuesday, which I think in hospitality for that game, so that's definitely going to not go well, but we'll see about that. But appreciate you both coming on again to talk about a very eventful 0-0 draw.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no bother at all.
We will be back, or someone will be back, to talk about Saturday's game on Sunday. Hopefully a win and potentially seal the playoffs, depending how results go tonight for Sheffield against Crewe, and of course on Saturday when Wycombe play Sheffield Wednesday. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.